Hello and welcome to this week's edition of TCS Student News. I'm your host Vernon Laumann here with my co-host
Lacy.
Let's get started. Yemen's former leader killed in Sana'a. Officials from Mr. Ali Abdullah's General People's Congress Party said he died in an attack south of the capital, Sana'a. Meanwhile, the United Nations said airstrikes on Sana'a have intensified and the fighting was spreading to other regions in Yemen. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said roads had been blocked and tanks were on the streets. Some of the most fiercest fighting was in the diplomatic area near the UN compound. The Red Cross estimates that at least 125 people have been killed and more than 230 people injured since fighting broke out on Friday. The UN humanitarian coordinator in Yemen called for a humanitarian pause on December 5th to allow civilians to leave their homes and seek assistance, and for aid workers to continue life-saving programs. The death of Ali Abdullah at the hands of the Houthi rebels now makes a peace resolution even less likely. Mr. Ali's forces and the Houthis were strong enough to hold on to Sana'a and repel the forces of Yemen's internationally recognized government and its Gulf Arab allies for much of the mountainous north. But Mr. Ali's supporters, who are well armed, will now seek vengeance. So it'll be very interesting to see the swinging alliances and friendships as time goes on.
The U.S. just upped the ante on simulated bomb runs on North Korea. The U.S. responded to North Korea's latest missile launch with a simulated bombing run from a B-1B Lancer bomber and an F-22. North Korea hates the B-1 bombing runs and have threatened to shoot down the plane on multiple occasions. The U.S.'s F-22 is very stealthy, and North Korea is probably not going to be able to shoot it down. It's unclear how much higher tensions can rise from the U.S. and North Korea. The last bombing run so far was on last week's Wednesday. Both the B-1B bomber and the F-22 were used on this bombing test. The North Korean news states that since North Korea's tracking equipment is out of date, the F-22 is basically invisible to them.
John Connors Jr. retires, ending a half-century in Congress. Facing multiple allegations of sexual harassment, John Connors Jr. resigned as Congress's longest-serving member on Tuesday, becoming the first lawmaker to step down as Capitol Hill handles allegations of inappropriate behavior by lawmakers. Reports got out of a $27,000 settlement Connors reached with a former employee, which intensified scrutiny of Congress for its secretive system of settling harassment complaints. Connors, who represented the Detroit area for 52 years, listened to pressures from Democratic leaders to step aside as a growing number of female former aides accused him of unwanted advances and mistreatment. He has denied any wrongdoing. From a hospital in Detroit, the 88-year-old congressman said he was putting his retirement plans together, and he endorsed his son, John Connors III, to replace him. When asked about the harassment allegations, Connors said his legacy cannot be compromised or diminished in any way by what's going on. This too shall pass, Connors told a local radio station in an interview. Connors is just one of the many representatives that has had allegations brought up against him, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens from here on out.
A priest used the butt of Jesus as an 18th century time capsule. A priest in the 18th century Spain found a clever way to hide a secret message for the people of the future. The priest hid it in the buttocks of a hollow statue of Jesus Christ crucified, called Cristo del Miserere. The statue was taken from the church it was in to get restored to its former beauty when the cleaners took out a piece of removable wood hidden behind a cloth. In the statue was a document that said what the year was, what crops were in demand, who the monarchy at the time was, and the most common diseases at the time. This priest by the name of Joaquin Minguez wrote this document in 1777 and talked about the King Carlos III. Before we get into the TCS news, I'm going to tell you the weekend weather for the Remington area. On Saturday, it's going to be 47 degrees Fahrenheit with a wind speed of 5 miles per hour. The chance of precipitation is 30%. Your Sunday weather looks like it will be dropping a little to 38 degrees Fahrenheit with a wind speed of 18 miles per hour. The chance of precipitation has fallen down to 0%. And now, here's your TCS Student News.
This year's AIAC, or Associated Italian-American Charities, was just as amazing as last year's. It's astonishing to see so many good people come together for a good cause. The money they raise changes the lives of so many young men and women, and just the people's involved willingness to help others they don't even know is just amazing.
I personally had a great time at this event. The people were nice, the food was great, and it was good to see new and old faces. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Tom Iacoboni, Miss Jean, Mr. Mike Gallo, and Miss Jackie for inviting us to the event, donating to the school, and helping us have a great time.
I just want to thank all the parents, sponsors, and supporters of the school for bringing in the delicious lunches. I know all the students really appreciate it, so thank you again for all your help.
This past Friday, the students at the school watched the movie Good Will Hunting. This movie was Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's first movie. The movie also had actors such as Robin Williams and Stellan Skarsgård. Good Will Hunting is about a man by the name of Will Hunting, hence the title of the movie, who is secretly a math genius. Will works at MIT as a janitor when he was caught solving a very complex math problem on the board. The teacher who caught Will gave him a chance to prove his potential, as long as he goes to therapy every week. This is one of my favorite movies, and I hope that everyone else enjoyed it as much as I did. From 1 to 10 being best, how did you like this movie, Vernon?
You know, Donald, I would give this movie a solid 9. I thought the characters had a lot of personality, and the overall meaning of the movie could help people who are going through the same things as Will Hunting.
Thanks for tuning in this week for this week's edition of TCS News. We hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next morning.